So I'd like to speak towards two parts of the rules that are being proposed. See if we can get to two of them. First, I think Rule 15 should be struck entirely. If the members of this elected body have even one duty to the electors, it's to allow the electors to face them when doing the thing they were elected to do in service to the duties of the town council. For the same reason, I would offer in law that a defendant has a due right to face both his witnesses and his accusers. It is a right of the electors to face those people that they've elected, especially when it comes to the extension of the legislative body, which is the electors, and in this case, their representatives in the town council. This is the single most important element of consent of the governed once the election has passed. It's an incomparable dereliction of duty to allow for the participation in these meetings by councilmen by any means other than in person. The sole and stated reason electronic participation was first allowed was because certain demands of this body coming in from Hartford during COVID made it all but impossible to carry out the due duties of this body without the availability of an electronic or virtual means of participation. I think we can all agree those conditions have long since passed. And to that effect, since I've laid out the argument on principle, I really don't care about arguments as a matter of convenience. This is a duty that the council has to face the electors. This is a right of the electors to face the people that they elected when it comes to this body. And to that effect, I did put out a poll on Facebook, and I realized the problem was with polls on Facebook, and I realized that the sample size isn't what I would prefer it to be at 72, but for the folks that watching at home, I'll have to just explain what's on the overhead projector right now. But we're looking at as soon as this bulb warms up, an 84 to 16 margin, 84% to 16 margin. Again, I understand the flaws of a Facebook poll. I understand the flaws of sampling of this small. But if 73 to 27 and 71 to 29 are statement results, that to me is a fairly statement result within the confines and limitations of a Facebook poll. So I've laid out the argument on principle, and it is not popular among the populace. The way this is phrased is, should it be allowed or totally disallowed? Some people did chime in and say that there might be circumstances where there should be limitations at least put on it, but that's the entire voting population in terms of what's allowed. Everyone else, that whole 84%, is get rid of it entirely. So I think Rule 15 should be struck from the rules in its entirety. So the second thing I would like to propose in terms of the rules is that rules, as in regard to Rule 7, I propose the first sentence be amended as follows. Quote, "The presiding officer shall adjourn the meeting no later than 9:00 p.m. unless the town council extends the meeting by unanimous vote and only under extraordinary exigent circumstances," end quote. I'd be happy to hand that in. The singular reason for these meetings is to conduct the business of the town council, and that's it. This is one of the most important tenets of Robert's rules, and needlessly dragging the meeting on should absolutely not be tolerated. No one in here is paid by the hour, and that's especially true of the electors, whose right to view these meetings is at least abused when Gish Gallop is allowed to rule the night, as it has come to so constantly be. An 8-item agenda in which 6 of the items are recitations of various oaths, public comment, and the acceptance of donations should absolutely not take until 9:45 p.m., as it did just a few weeks ago. Robert's rules have been adopted for decades in this body, and it is well within reason to use them. Calling the question is not only a privilege afforded by the rules, but a demand thereof when a meeting is being taken outside the bounds of conducting business, period. Frankly, I would have liked to have seen it used and the rules applied significantly more frequently than it has been. This is not an online debate forum. This is an official meeting of a duly elected legislative body. Debate is allowed, and when carried about in clear good faith, can be a good thing. Grandstanding, virtue signaling, and Gish Gallop aren't that. 2 hours is plenty of time to get through a meeting conforming to the rules herein set. In fact, the overwhelming majority of these meetings should be done and over with in under an hour if you're to adhere to Robert's rules, especially when the agenda is limited and obviously not contentious. Let's get this done, and I know we can do it right. So strike Rule 15 and let's amend Rule 7 as I've suggested.